Good morning, everyone. This is Matt here. Coffee with Friends episode 4 starts now. We got Natalie coming in soon. We're going to talk about how do you read a coffee shop menu. Here she is. How's it going? People jumping in. We got nice connection.
That's
Good
right.
morning.
Tech issues no more. But
We're good.
Floor. I'm sorry, I got to comment on it.
Sorry, my stash?
Yeah.
It was time.
I feel like I just saw the fact that it grew in that thick within like a matter of days.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, did I not?
Mission accomplished.
Like, whoa. Way to go. Way to go.
Well, I turned off my app limits, so there will be no interruptions today. Coming to you guys live from home. Natalie and Matt were here today. What's in your cup?
So this is actually fun. So, I have in my cup Hatch Starlight.
Ooh.
Yeah. So,
that's a cool bag.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think when they do the black bag, it's like elite or something. I don't know. So it's an Ethiopian. Surprise, surprise. My fave. Floral peach lemon shortcake. Yeah. And I will say, I think my scale's acting up. I need to tweak the recipe a little bit, but the lemon shortcake's coming through a little bit. So
Sweet.
Yeah.
Dessert for breakfast.
My fave.
I am having an unreleased Stock and Crown blend.
Ho ho ho.
Title yet to be shared.
ED.
But it's just teetering on the dark roast, a little something different. The Nicaragua, Mexico 50-50 blend. It's more of a rich cup, molasses, hazelnuts, a little bit of vanilla. So that's today in my little small mug or cup.
I love it. I like how we're both handleless today.
Handleless? Yep.
Mine's a little bit bigger.
I got this at an art design store in Vancouver.
No way! So cute.
Very cool. So, what are we talking about today?
I'm talking about coffee shop menus.
Coffee shop menus.
And I think this is a great one. I mean, it's like really easy. Last week was very technical. My mom watched it, and she was like, I didn't know any of the words you were using.
Right.
But she's like, but it's so cool to know that there's so much to know about coffee. And I was like, that was like the Cliff's Notes version of a Cliff's Notes version.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
But so I think this one will be a lot easier to follow, everyone.
Yeah. You'll be able to digest this one a little easier.
Yes.
Also, anyone watching today, drop your favorite drinks to order from cafes in the chat. Yeah. Because we want to know. We also want to know. Yeah.
What do you get, Matt, when you go to a coffee shop?
I am an Americano sucker. So I get those. Americano is espresso and hot water. It's pretty basic. I get it because compared to a drip coffee, which usually is done in batches, Americanos are by the cup, so it never sits. So it's always fresh. So
that's fair. Ooh.
Yeah.
Recently, Brie has been drinking a flat white with oat milk.
I feel like I get that every time I come to your pop-up.
I think that is what you get. Flat white with
every single time. So that's also one. There you go. So how about you?
I feel you. I think Americanos are nice. Now, I'm going to just take the exact opposite approach of what you just did and say I love batch brew.
Yeah.
I love batch brew done well so much.
Right.
There is nothing in my mind, I think, that tops a batch brew except for an exceptionally done flat white. Those are the only, but it has to be exceptional. Otherwise, I'm just drinking milk. no reason.
real quick, what are the what are the characteristics of an exceptional flat white?
Okay, milk texture and sweetness. Okay, so if you steam milk properly, milk is very, very sweet. So
Yep.
I'm going to tell a story, and I hope this doesn't sound like a brag, but when I was working, so know my heart, everyone listening, know my heart. But this so perfectly frames, and I was so shocked when this happened. Okay, I was not some superstar barista. I'm still learning. But this was a couple years back, and I was working in a coffee shop in California, and this woman ordered a latte with cinnamon in it. That's it. So it's espresso, steamed milk, cinnamon powder. Tell me why. I hand this woman her drink. She takes a sip, and she said, "There's sugar in here. It's too sweet." And I was like, "I have not added any sugar. I made this drink from start to finish. There's no sugar in this. It's just really, really sweet." And I was like, that's what milk is supposed to taste like. She goes out, she throws it out in her full 16-ounce latte. She throws it out in our trash can.
In the garbage can.
I cried. And then she came back and asked me to remake it. I'm like, I don't know what you expected different. So
Wow.
when you're looking for an exceptional flat white, you're looking for sweetness, both from your espresso and your milk, because when you steam your milk, the sugars in your milk kind of break down a little bit and caramelize a little, and it's delicious.
Let's talk about milk texture for a second.
Yeah.
How do you know when you've received great milk texture in a cup? Like, I know for me, I know what to expect. Usually for me, if I take a sip of a milk drink and there's like a thin layer of foam on top and you hit liquid like quick, like it's straight liquid, there's no foam integrated in it at all, then that's usually a sign that it wasn't aerated too much. So thin layer of foam usually
unless
means
the drink has been sitting for a while. I mean, that's like, you gotta, yeah.
Yep.
Very
true.
Foam will separate. So, but yes, I think the other thing you're looking for is, one, your aeration. Also, milk, when it's properly steamed, is silky and shiny. So once it hits that espresso, it will lose a little bit of its shine, but it'll still be kind of shiny. So if you see a little sheen, it can be, and the other thing is, if you see nice latte art, now this is dependent on how good the barista is at pouring latte art. So they could be excellent at steaming milk and just not great at rosettas, but the better the steamed milk, the easier it is to pour intricate latte art. So if it looks clumpy, it's probably aerated.
Right. And aeration, for people who don't know what it is, you know when you're in a cafe and you hear that's allowing air into the milk. So that's what aeration means.
And if
you're
you
just adding air
really,
in.
really loud, be warned.
If you're hearing like a lot of air, then you know it's like, sorry, I'm probably like deafening people right now. That may mean you got a lot of foam in your drink. The more of that you hear,
the more foam.
And more intense, you're gonna get a lot more foam. So
okay.
Well, let's go through the drinks you may find in a cafe. So you noted on batch brew, which can also be translated to drip, some people say. So drip coffee. Batch brew just means like drip coffee in like a quantity.
A big batch.
Big batch. Some people also use the word filter, depending on where you go. Even in the world, some people use filter.
And that's just your normal coffee. I will say, I have talked to people and used all three of these terms in an effort to describe, and they've been like, a regular coffee, and I'm like, yes.
So drip, filter, batch equate to regular coffee. So like a coffee maker in your house with a filter, that's like that's regular coffee for you. So you go in someplace, someone says, you want a drip, you want a batch, you want a filter, regular coffee.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. With a machine.
Yeah. Let's go into espresso.
Yep.
What is espresso?
Espresso is not a type of bean. It is not a type of roast. It is a type of brewing method. And so if you've ever come to Rome Coffee, we only serve espresso drinks, also tea, but we don't have drip, filter, or batch brew, because we do everything with our La Marzocco espresso machine. So basically what happens is you take a little bit of coffee and you put it in something called a portafilter and put it in the machine. And essentially the machine uses pressure to force water through a certain amount of coffee, and that gives you a super, what's the opposite word of diluted? A super intense.
I'm blanking right now.
A super concentrated ounce or two, depending on how they're pulling, bit of coffee.
Right. Generally 2 ounces.
Generally 2 ounces.
Yep.
So
it's just a small, it'd be like a little concentration. Thank you. Someone just said.
That's it. Thanks, Lloyd.
You're the best.
Words.
So espresso. So in an espresso machine, that is what is coming out of those big hunks of metal or whatever is made. So, sorry, go.
I was gonna say espresso and steamed milk, like we were talking about earlier, can turn into a flat white or turn into a latte. You can also do steamed milk with brewed coffee before we leave brewed coffee, and we call that misto.
Misto.
That is like a little side.
Yeah, no, we should talk about mistos.
Yeah, before we leave batch brew, I figured, well, let's talk about a misto, which is just essentially, usually most coffee shops, 2/3 brewed coffee, 1/3 steamed milk.
So when you say brewed coffee, you mean?
Drip, filter, batch brew.
So, yeah, misto. You can also do, so you can do a batch, filter, drip, misto, which is 2/3 coffee, 1/3 steamed milk. So a lot of places do Americano mistos, which is what I've gotten a lot in the past, which would just be an Americano, espresso, hot water, and steamed milk. So you're getting a little bit of everything.
True. It won't be as creamy as a latte, but still delicious.
Yes. No. I'm just going through our list here of all these drinks, making sure we hit them all. Let's talk about. So I noted on. Sorry.
What's a latte to you? Like, tell me, like, sizes, how much milk is in it, how much espresso, like, what goes into a latte for you?
So a latte would be 12 ounces, which is generally, I will get a 12-ounce mug.
Oh, a little visual demonstration today. Like a science project.
Yes. I have many mugs.
That makes sense. I'm not surprised by that.
Okay. Here we go. So, this is not 12 ounces.
Oh, okay. I was like, where are we going with this?
This is small. So if you put 2 ounces of espresso in here and steamed milk, you would land, depending on the way you steam your milk, maybe we're getting a little too technical. You would land more in the cappuccino flat white region,
yes,
which is less milk than a latte. Boom. This says "You Beauty" if you can't read it. Less milk in flat white cappuccino than in a latte. So the latte is typically 12 ounces. This is 12 ounces. If you can't tell, it's just like really thin-walled. 12 ounces, so 2 ounces of espresso in the bottom, and then steamed milk all the way through. Pretty simple. So I think that's why lattes are so popular, because people just, it's like very approachable. Usually if someone has never had a milk or espresso based drink, just try a latte.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah.
There's no frills to it. There's no like, then when you read like you go to a cafe and it's like caramel latte, vanilla latte, it's basically just adding like flavor to that espresso and steamed milk. So at Natalie's pop-up at Rome, all her syrups are like house made, so you're not just getting like, oh, this like sugary syrup like in my drink, like it's legit. So plug on those crazy syrups.
Thank you for that plug, especially because this weekend we're launching our new drinks. So buy holiday drinks.
Okay.
Oh, new drinks.
Okay. I've been waiting for this.
I know. I'm super excited. I think it'll be really good. If anyone saw my Instagram, they saw a photo yesterday with like a little cookie on it, and like, what does that mean? A little sneak peek for a little V-Day celebration.
I got to make weekend plans to come out there.
Yeah. Well, hold on. There's every Saturday, guys. Every
Saturday.
10 to 3.
10 to 3.
So,
all right, next drink. So we did espresso, latte, Americano. Let's talk about cappuccino.
I was gonna say let's do like latte as the most milk beverage, and then work our way down to the least milk.
You got it.
I think that's a solid plan.
Yes. Okay. So let's start with flat white then, and then we'll do cappuccino.
Sounds good. So, like Matt was saying, a latte is usually 12 ounces. You can get them larger depending on if your coffee shop serves them larger.
Yes.
Yes. But generally, usually the same amount of espresso, just more milk. So that's one of the things. So flat white is going to be smaller than a latte. It's going to be similar to that size. If you come to Rome Coffee, you will get an 8-ounce flat white. That is the standard, 8 ounces. It's pretty much the standard. The other standard for flat whites is that they're made with whole milk. So if you go to a coffee shop, sometimes they do lattes with 2% milk by default, and they'll do whole milk for flat whites. So I do all whole milk because it tastes way better in my opinion. But a flat white is just going to be espresso, 2 ounces of espresso, steamed milk with the other last indicator of a flat white and why it's so special and what the heck does it mean by flat white. Flat typically means no foam or less foam. So flat white is marked by its very light microfoam. So when we talk about excellently steamed milk, we're talking about flat white milk. We're talking about that really nice silky microfoam, which is like the little tiny bubbles as opposed to big blah, 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 bubbles. And you're gonna
quick plug. If you want to see microfoam, go on Rome Coffee's Instagram. And look at pictures of latte art on there, because that's like you just look at it and it's like tiny little speckles, just like a shimmering. It's like a frozen lake.
Like a frozen lake.
In Canada. Also, people, drop your favorite drinks in the chat. We've got lots of people in here right now. So, sorry, keep going.
No. So that's great. So like, you're gonna find those are just a few things that separate like a flat white from a latte or even a cappuccino, and why you're seeing that word more is it's an Australian-based drink that's kind of taking over the coffee scene in America, in Canada. I know you can get them at Starbucks now even, so like they've really, and Starbucks does do them like whole milk with like microfoam and like tries to make
it usually has a dot on top. Usually it's like one little dot.
Yeah, so it's not just like, oh, it's a smaller latte. It's like, well, there's a few other things that do set it apart. From a thing.
Yeah. Cappuccino, same amount of espresso and milk. You're just getting more foam. Usually equal parts. So third foam, third steam milk, like steam milk in general, and then espresso. So you're getting this 3-tiered beauty. Like I mentioned last week, one of my favorite drinks I ever had was a cappuccino at a coffee shop downtown. Sorry.
No,
we have a question.
Before we answer that question, when you were talking about your favorite cappuccino, was it a traditional cappuccino?
It is a good question. Are you talking like free pour versus spoon?
Well, because
we should talk about that.
There is a difference. So cappuccino, I feel like, and it's one of my like favorite words and also least favorite words in the coffee shop dictionary, because I feel like more than any other term, cappuccino has changed its meaning depending on where you are. So traditional cappuccino is exactly what Matt described. However, if you go into certain coffee shops that are like maybe
Italian,
Toronto or something else, they are going to do a cappuccino that is not going to have that big foam. It's going to have like more micro foam. It might have more foam, but it's not going to be that true fluffy
Yep.
foam that you think of with a cappuccino. More and more new independent coffee shops are going for a flat white style cappuccino. So that's what I was
Right.
asking. Was it like a traditional, like I could eat that foam with a spoon situation?
It was kind of like a hybrid in the middle, which I think is why I, it wasn't like purely like flat whitey where it's like very liquid, but it still had this like creaminess to it, or you could tell there's like foam throughout. So good because as I'm drinking it, there's foam coating the walls. I'm like, who steamed this? Like,
A little drink with some like
craziness.
Moët.
So we should talk about a new, not new, but it's more of a recent trend in coffee shops. Then we'll answer your question, Bryce. Um, is a free pour versus a spoon. So traditionally, like more in like Italian coffee shops, traditionally cappuccinos, espresso, and very aerated milk. So mostly just like foam and just very, 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 very little bit of like actual liquid. So they're actually spooning like foam on top for you. So that's why you've probably seen pictures of like mugs with like a ton of foam like bubbling and like cinnamon on top or something. That's more of like a traditional like cappuccino style. So that would be like a spoon method. But nowadays it's called, most coffee shops, especially smaller independent ones, are doing what's called a free pour, which is the same amount of foam and stuff might be in a pitcher. It's more well incorporated for a nice looking drink at the end instead of like this pillow on top. So it's more of like mixed all the way through, which is why I got foam all the way down my drink when I had my favorite cappuccino ever. So anyway, are plant-based milks harder to make microfoam rather than cow's milk? Well, sorry, go.
Go for it, Matt. Tell us.
It depends on the brand, I will say. Totally depends on the brand.
And some milk are more notorious than others.
Yes. Coconut milk, you will not be able to get that texture. Some almond milks, they usually tend to separate when you try and do that. Try and steam microfoam. I've had some luck with soy. I've had great results with oat. How about you?
I would say, as a whole, I think all alternative milks are harder than cow's milk.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and when I say cow's milk, I mean whole milk or 3.25% or homo milk or whatever we call it here in Canada.
Yeah,
Um, because what you're looking for, what makes a really nice steam is a certain amount of fat content and a certain, because that's going to help hold your foam.
Mhm.
So 3.25% milk, or do we call it whole milk here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Whole homo, and I don't even know what the percentage is. I think it is 3.25. Those are all the same.
Perfect. So whole milk is
Yep.
going to seem way easier than, or give you better foam than 1% because of
Yep.
that fat content. So part of the problems with alternative milks is finding that great fat ratio, and that's why you find brands do barista blends, which is they've added special proteins or extra different chemicals sometimes to mimic a good ratio, similar to calcium. So I think if you're looking to practice your latte art, but you can't do regular milk and you want to foam it up, I'd say go oat milk or soy milk. To be honest, soy is pretty decent. But oat milk's the easiest I found. Some almond milks are good too. Also, homemade almond milk isn't terrible.
It's a new episode we're gonna have to do.
That one
We have to do a make your own almond milk. That would be a long, messy episode. All right, next drink. Which, since we talked about the cappuccino, let's talk about some cafes you might go into. Actually, let's talk about Starbucks for a second because I used to work there forever ago. Some people come and ask for a dry cappuccino. That is an option. Dry cappuccino is what I described earlier as espresso and just foam. You're trying to get as little liquid in the cup as possible. And most people would also reference this as a macchiato kind of style traditionally. So we're doing,
Okay.
from my understanding, but you can talk on your piece.
I kind of feel that.
Macchiato maybe might have a little bit more liquid, but it is a much smaller drink. So you're not expecting to get this when you order a macchiato.
Hi. That was weird.
There.
It just cut
Sorry,
out
I
for
got
like a
a
split
random
second.
phone call. My second spam call of the day. Sorry, people. So
Love
yeah,
it.
that's macchiato. Smaller drink, espresso, not a ton of milk, very small. Let's talk about cortado.
Oh, cortado, or if you're ever in the States, I don't know if anyone in Canada calls them Gibraltar.
Yep. Yes. Cortado. I used to having, maybe this might just be me, 2 shots, even though it's super small.
Yeah.
I don't have a glass with me, but typically cortado's 2 shots of espresso.
I broke my cortado glass.
And I usually like mine kind of like flat white steamed, not like a ton of foam. A lot smaller. So about what size do you usually?
So it's named a Gibraltar because the glass itself is called a Gibraltar glass. So a
Right.
traditional Gibraltar glass is going to be 4.5 ounces. So it's supposed to be a cortado Gibraltar is going to be like equal parts espresso, equal parts steamed milk. So you're going to get 2 ounces of your espresso and then like 2 ounces of your steamed milk. And that's what marks it. Again, different coffee shops have different mugs, so you might lose a little, gain a little in the process, but it's essentially an even smaller flat white.
Just getting smaller.
Yeah, you're just getting smaller. So like
you're just getting more of that coffee taste coming through.
Exactly. And it's still going to be a double shot.
Yeah.
And same with the macchiato. Macchiato is still going to be a double shot. It's going to be even smaller than a cortado.
Yeah. So let's get into the like bonus round random drinks that we've heard of, which we only have like, I think we only have like 2 or 3.
Yeah, there's like
dirty chai. Let's talk about it.
Dirty chai. I used to love chais.
What is it?
One in many a moon. It's gonna be a chai latte with a shot of espresso.
Chai latte, shot of espresso. Never had it.
You've never had a dirty chai?
No.
If you have a good chai, it has to be like a chai concentrate. It has to be like a nice spicy chai with like a hint of sweetness, and then you add a shot.
I guess I could try it.
It's good. I don't know where I would recommend a dirty chai in the area though. I don't know. But
all right.
Very delicious. So if anyone has any good chai recommendations, send them here.
Yes. Let's talk about
a red eye.
Red eye. What is a red eye? Red eye is drip coffee, filter coffee, batch brew. What are all the words we use? Filter with a shot of espresso in it. So just surging through your veins, caffeine. So good. Long black is my favorite. That's literally our next question. So long black, I'm like reading this as like traditional, like what it says. Okay. Long black is made by pouring a double shot of espresso or ristretto over water. So Americano. Yeah. In a lot of ways. Ristretto.
Yeah.
Do you know the nitty gritty about ristrettos?
Totally. So circling back to long black, if you order a long black in most cafes, what you're going to get is just a small Americano. It's going to be a double shot of espresso with just a smaller amount of hot water. Some coffee shops pull long shots, which means they pull extra water through their coffee. Here's why I don't like that. And I don't mean to hate on anyone that does that. I'm not thinking of anyone off the top of my head. And we'll talk about ristretto too, because when you mess with how much water goes through your espresso, let's say you have 18 grams of coffee and you're pulling a traditional shot, you'd pull 40 grams of water through. That's somewhat on par. Okay. You're using numbers here. You're going to get a really nice balanced espresso. The moment you start pulling more water through, all the sugars from your espresso have already dissolved. So all that's left are the salts. So oftentimes you're going to get these bitter or salty, sometimes
Yep.
tasty, but not in a good way, espresso shots. So I don't think you have to worry about it. I'm so sorry that I'm bursting your bubble. To anyone that loves, long blacks are great if they're just espresso and hot water. But anytime they're doing long shots, I'm not a fan because you're not gonna get you're gonna be over extracted. Now the thing with ristretto is the opposite. So if you're just doing normally 40 grams of water through to get a normal espresso shot, they're gonna do 30 or 25 or 20. And they're going to do less water with the intention of, we're only going to get those sugars. We're not going to risk getting any of those bad things. But then what happens is sometimes you don't get a complex or full espresso shot. And so you're under extracted and you get this, the grounds haven't fully been penetrated with enough water to really get a nice, full, balanced espresso. So I don't mess around with like short shots or ristretto shots or even long shots. I know some people really like those.
Right.
That's more of a traditional Italian thing to do different things like that.
I think the ristrettos are more of like a guessing game of like, what this is going to taste like in a ristretto. Like, unless you are like stopping it at the same time, like all the time, and you know exactly what it's going to taste like when it's short. It's just kind of a harder thing because usually like baristas are trying to get that coffee ratio and water recipe on an espresso machine just right. So you're getting the peak of those flavors. But if you're just pulling like random volumes of the shots, you just kind of don't really know what you're going to get. So long blacks, you kind of have to know what cafe you're rolling with and what they do and ask questions.
Yeah, I think it's really those, and not to say traditional is bad, but like even how we're talking about weighing our coffee and weighing the amount of water, that is relatively new in the last decade. So prior to people using scales for, like when I pull a shot of espresso, I'm using a scale to weigh my coffee input, and I'm using another scale to weigh my espresso output. So I'm using two scales just to pull one shot of espresso. That was not common before a decade ago. People measured good espresso based on how it looked, and of course how it tasted, but volume and coloration was what people looked at. And so that's how you get these, I want short, I want it a normal espresso, I want a long shot. That's the only way they had to measure it. We've kind of evolved past that in a way. So what is the proper ratio for Americano? Some places serve it way too large. I have an opinion, and I'm sure Pat has an opinion. My opinion is this, and this, I am
make it quick. We got to wrap up soon.
I know. I'm so sorry. My opinion is this: 8 ounces is the perfect cup of coffee. So to me, an 8-ounce Americano is the perfect Americano. I think you can push it to 12 ounces if you really want to sip on it longer. But I don't think anything more because, you're just going to dilute your espresso, and there's just no need for that.
Right. I would say the exact same thing. As long as you're keeping, I usually think of it as like, not quite a third, but espresso about a third of the drink. So if I'm gonna do a large Americano, I just gotta make sure there's an adequate amount of espresso in the cup. That's all. So that would be a great note to actually end on. Ask your barista, your local neighborhood barista, more questions, because even both of us working as baristas and serving in that area. That's something I would say more for customers. Ask baristas more questions. We love to hear those things. Like, I'm not saying we, like I'm a barista, but I'm not at this point in time. But I'm claiming that for myself right now. Ask more questions because we are there behind the machine for a reason.
Yep.
So we love coffee. We love everything, every aspect of it. And we'd like to say the same on behalf of other baristas in all the cafes. So take us to school. Ask us how much coffee we use for this. How do you make this drink? Because cafes are unique. Some people do things differently. So
cafes are unique, and we talked about standards, but you could go to a cafe and they could make them completely different than what we talked about. And
yeah,
that's one of
which is interesting. Send us a message. I want to know places that make things differently and why, and they might have like a reason. They like the taste of this, so they do it this way. So that's all for this week, people.
Lloyd, glad you learned something. Everyone,
yes.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks
yes. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
This will be posted all over the place. Stockandcrown.com. If you haven't heard, secret code Stock Me Up will get you into the early access website.
Their coffee's good. Buy it.
I already finished my cup. I drank that too fast. Stock Me Up gets you into the early access website. We're posting all the videos on our YouTube, Stock and Crown Coffee, on our blog, on the website. And where can they find the videos on your end? Oh, IGTV, of course.
IGTV, hello.
Yes, of course.
My
all right.
Of all news, of course.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Bye.
See you later.